All right, this is part 2 of our Flip Friday on fractions and decimals on the number line. Before we start doing some decimals, let's practice a little bit with fractions. So I'd like you to tell me where on the number line is Pepper, the penguin here. Is he at 1/3, 1 1/4, or 1 2/3? Take a second, pause it if you need to, decide which one. Alright, so to figure this out, I can eliminate off the bat that A is not going to be the correct answer. Because 1/3 I know is less than 1. And 1/3 is what I get when I divide the distance from 0 to 1 into 3 equal parts. So 1/3 is going to be right here. Alright, and then looking at the other two answers, 1 1/4 and 1 2/3, that would make sense because Pepper is clearly one whole, and then there's some other stuff. So now I have to decide, is that other stuff going to be 1/4 or 2/3? And I can see from my drawing in between 0 and 1 that 2/3 would be right here. It's closer to the next whole number. So right away, I can see that C can't be the answer because 1 2/3 is going to be closer to 2 than it is 1. The correct answer is B, 1 1/4. And I can see that by noticing that if I take the distance, between 1 and 2, and I divide it into 4 equal parts, like that, about equal parts, then the penguin is going to be exactly on 1 1/4. So let's return to our number line from 0 to 1. And this is the number line that I'm going to want you to put in your note slip for your homework. It's what you'll show me tomorrow so that I know that you watched this video and so that you got some practice. We're going to take this distance from 0 to 1 and we're going to divide it into 10 equal parts. And it's not going to be perfect. I'm going to do it as best I can. If I need to, I can erase and fix some. So here's 1 part, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10's that last one. And let me actually fix some of these, even them out a little bit more. It's okay, we're not perfect at drawing equal parts, as long as we get an idea. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then there's the 10th part. Okay, so again, double check that you've got 10 equal parts to get from 0 to 1. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, well, we already know that if I've divided the whole into 10 equal parts, these are going to show tenths. So my first tick mark is 1/10, then I've got 2/10, then 3/10, then there's 4/10, and 5/10. And you may remember that 5/10 is equal to 1/2, and that makes sense because if I do divide the top and the bottom by 5, I'm going to get 1 over 2. So keep going. We've got 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, and 9/10. And 1 whole is equal to 10/10. And of course, 0 is equal to 0/10. Okay, now those fractions should sound familiar because we've read decimals. And you may remember that when we read a decimal that looks like this, 0.1, if I'm reading that like a mathematician would, I read that as 0 and 1/10. And 0 and 1/10 corresponds exactly with this mark here, 0.1. That's what it means, 1/10. And similarly, this is 0.2. Here's 0.3. Draw some arrows so we see what those are. This is 0.4, 4/10, 0.5, 5/10. You may remember that 0 and 5/10, 0.5 is equal to 1/2, so that's our happy half point. And we've got 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and 1 whole is of course just 1.0 or 10/10. 1 whole. Okay. So that's now our number line. We've shown it as both fractions, tenths, and we've shown the decimals, the tenths. All right, so let's practice with that. If I want to put Pepper at 2.4, 2 and 4/10, then first I need to see that I've got this whole part, this 2. So 2 and 4/10 means that the penguin is definitely going to be somewhere after 2 because he's got the whole part. But it's going to be more than 2 because there's a decimal that goes with it. Take that out. There's a decimal that goes with it, this 0.4. So I'm going to need to move Pepper to be somewhere 4/10 of the way from 2 to 3. And if I'm going to estimate that, I know that 0.4 is just a little bit, 2.4 is just a little bit less than 2.5. And remember that 2.5 is easy for me to find. It's exactly halfway. So I know exactly halfway is going to be right there, we'll say. And that means that my penguin is going to be a little bit to the left of it, a little bit less than halfway. If I want to find 2.4 exactly, then I'm going to have to divide this distance from 2 to 3 into 10 equal parts. So I'm going to do that. I've got 1, 2, 3, here's 4/10, there's the 5/10 that we already did, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10/10 is right here where 3 holes is. Okay, and so now it's really easy for me to see that 2 and 4/10 is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 of those little marks in or just before 2.5. Okay, now I want to again figure out where Pepper the penguin is on this number line. It goes from 3 to 6, and I can see that Pepper is somewhere in between 4 and 5. So right away you should be thinking you can rule out one of the answers. Take a second, guess which one it is. A, 4 and 8/10, B, 5 and 2/10, or C, 4 and 2/10. Okay, let's check what you got. So I can right away rule out B, and the reason I can rule B out is because B is greater than 5. 5 and 2/10 would mean that I'm going all the way to 5, and then I would have 2 little tenths more. So it's going to be somewhere around here. And Pepper is clearly to the left of 5, which means it's going to be less than 5, in between 4 and 5. So that gives me 2 choices, 4.8, 4 and 8/10, or 4.2, 4 and 2/10. And it's definitely not going to be 4.2. Cross that out. And the reason it's not 4.2 is because 4.2 is 4 and then 2 little tenths, which is going to be closer to 4 than it is to 5. And 4.8 makes sense because if it were 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, somewhere around here is 4.8. I could also think about how 0.8 is just 2/10 away, because 4.9, 5.0, so 2/10 away from 5. And so that means it's going to be just a little distance from 5. So the correct answer is A, 4 and 8/10. And that's how you find decimals on a number line. Hooray!